in the late 70s, early 80s, there was no band bigger than Van Halen. They had 5 number 1 albums. They had a guitar virtuoso and the frontman to end all frontman. But one album or one song changed the course of Van Halen's history forever. And on this edition of Amplified Stories, we will discuss that, how that happened. The year was 1982, and Van Halen was coming off the success of their 4th album, Fair Warning, and they did a cover of Oh, Pretty Woman, and the record label, they were going to do it as a standalone single, and the record label thought it would be a good idea if they did a covers album called Divers Down. The one that did not sit well with guitar and Van Halen's namesake, Eddie Van Halen, was he felt that they were just rushing out an album and he didn't have a lot of control over the album. There was one particular song that he did not like, that producer Ted Templeman and vocalist David Lee Roth kind of pressured him into doing the song on Divers Down. And Divers Down is one of the low points in the David Lee Roth era. So there was other circumstances that we'll discuss in a future episode of Amplified Stories about this decision. But basically, Eddie Van Halen had a vision in his head of what he wanted Van Halen's sound to be like. So he thought to get that sound and get the energy up in that sound, he had to build his own studio. And over the course of time, from 1982 to 1983, he built a studio called 5150, where he could basically do whatever he wanted to do. And that first album would be 1983's 1984. That's the name of the album. And he went for a more kind of synthesizing sound and a little different type of musical direction, because he saw the success of other bands doing that, and he just wanted the band to evolve. Well, this didn't sit well with Ted Templeman or David Lee Roth, who thought that Van Halen was a rock band and a guitar-based rock band that loved to do rock music and showcase the guitar playing ability of Eddie Van Halen, who was at that point the guitar god in the world. But and then he kind of wrote this song, and Ted Templeman said this in an interview. He said, I was in the studio in Los Angeles, and Eddie called me up and said, you got to come over and you got to listen to this, the way this song is coming through. And he goes, he would pick me up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and drive me home, and he would get these synthesizers and keyboards and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. But I didn't think it was the way that he was going to produce the album. And the first song that he worked on was Jump. And, if you listen to 1984, the first thing you hear is not a guitar. You hear a keyboard. And, it just was such a departure from what the rest of the band and the producer would do. And again, David Lee Roth and Ted Templeman thought that it would be a bad thing for them to do it. And it ended up not being a bad thing at all. It actually became one of their biggest singles, thanks in no small part to the video. But that was the straw that broke the camel back for David Lee Roth, who again thought that they were going to be more of a party band, rock band kind of thing. And again, for the last straw for him, he would leave the band after the completion of the album and the tour to go on to a solo career. And then they would bring in Sammy Hagar to eventually take over for the departed David Lee Roth. And no disrespect, but and it ended up being a great move for Van Halen because it moved a lot of units, a lot of units, and it became, when it was released, it became the number 2 album on the Billboard charts in 1983, only to be behind Michael Jackson's Thriller. So it ended up being a very good move for Van Halen, but you could tell that there was some tension going on, dating back even further than that. But basically, what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about this? This song, the song Jump. Do you like the song Jump? Do you like how it came out? Do you agree with David Lee Roth and Ted Templeman, or do you agree with Eddie Van Halen that this was a necessary jump forward, no pun intended, to broaden their scope and really broaden their audience, give more credence to a wider audience? And obviously it worked for Van Halen. They had a big resurgence with this album. But, in the long run, did it isolate fans? Did it do this? Did it do that? Write it down in the comment section down below. And also like and subscribe to Amplified Stories. Put on the post notification bell so you don't miss out when I release new videos every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. And if you want to write down in the comment section down below your ideas, your story that you want me to cover for a future episode of Amplified Stories, I greatly appreciate it. And I have a bunch of stories that I'm working on. And I'll talk to you guys next week right here on Amplified Stories. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye, everyone.